股神华伦巴菲特并不是天生的亿万富翁，他也是从少量的金钱开始投资，就像我们大多数人一样。今天我们可以听听他之前在 Berkshire Hathaway 股东大会上分享他如何用少量的金钱开始投资的秘诀。
Good afternoon, Mr. Buffett and Mr. Munger. My name is Grant Morgan. I'm here from New York City. Earlier you had acknowledged that it is a more difficult investment and business environment today than it was when you first started out. My question is, if you were starting out again today in your early 30s, what would you do differently or the same in today's environment to replicate your success? In short, Mr. Buffett, how can I make $30 billion?
Start young. Charlie's always said that the big thing about it is we started building this little snowball on top of a very long hill. So we started at a very early age in rolling the snowball down. And of course, the snowball, the nature of compound interest is it behaves like a snowball of sticky snow. And the trick is to have a very long hill, which means either starting very young or living to be very old. I would do it exactly the same way if I were doing it in the investment world. I mean, if I were getting out of school today and I had $10,000 to invest, I'd start with the A's. I would start going right through companies, and I probably would focus on smaller companies because I would be working with smaller sums, and there's more chance that something is overlooked in that arena. And as Charlie has said earlier, it won't be like doing that in 1951 when you could leaf through and find all kinds of things that just leapt off the page at you. But that's the only way to do it. I mean, you have to buy businesses or little pieces of businesses called stocks, and you have to buy them at attractive prices, and you have to buy them you have to buy into good businesses. And that advice will be the same 100 years from now in terms of investing. That's what it's all about. And you can't expect anybody else to do it for you. I mean, people will not tell you about wonderful little investments. It's not the way the investment business is set up. When I first visited Geico in January of 1951, that rest of that year, I subsequently went down to Blythe and Company, and actually to one other firm that was a leading Geyer and Company that was a leading analyst in insurance. And I thought I'd discovered this wonderful thing, and I'd see what these great investment houses that specialized in insurance stocks said, and they said I didn't know what I was talking about. It wasn't of any interest to them. You've got to follow your own. You've got to learn what you know and what you don't know, and within the arena of what you know, you have to pursue it very vigorously and act on it when you find it. And you can't look around for people to agree with you. You can't look around for people to even know what you're talking about. You have to think for yourself. And if you do, you'll find things. Charlie?
Yeah, the hard part of the process for most people is the first $100,000. If you have a standing start at zero, getting together $100,000 is a long struggle for most people. And I would argue that the people who get there relatively quickly are helped if they're passionate about being rational, very eager and opportunistic, and steadily underspend their income grossly. I think those three factors are very helpful.
在我们继续看下去之前，这里有2个我想要更进一步跟你分享的东西。第一个是巴菲特说要专注投资在小公司，这样做的明显原因是小公司有更大的成长空间，所以你的投资会随着这些小公司增长。这并不是说大公司就是不好的公司，但是当你开始时只有一小笔钱可以投资的时候，你必须考虑机会成本，还有就是比起大公司，投资小公司的风险也比较高。这就是为什么巴菲特说你要观察很多家的小公司，这样你才可以找出那些好的并且有成长潜力的小公司。第二个我要强调的是， 查理芒格的名言，那就是第一个10万美元是最难获得的。所以一开始我会老老实实的找一份工，并尝试存到我的初始金额。这只是我个人的意见，你们可以根据你们的特定情况整理出最适合你们的方法。随着你有的钱越多，赚钱将会变得更容易。
Recently at a talk at the Wharton Business School, Mr. Buffett, you indicated that you were talking about the problems of compounding large size, which I appreciate and understand. But you indicated, you're quoted in the local paper as saying that you are confident that if you were working with a sum closer to $1 million, that you could compound that at a 50% rate. For those of us who aren't saddled with the $100 billion problem, could you talk about what types of investments you'd be looking at and where in today's market you think significant inefficiencies exist? Thank you.
Yeah, I think I may have been very slightly misquoted, but I certainly said something to the effect that working. I think I talked about this group I get together every 2 years and how I poll that group as to what they think they could compound money at it with 100,000, a million, 100 million, a billion, and other types of sums. And I pointed out how this group of 60 or so people that I get together with every couple of years, how their expectations of return would go very rapidly down this slope. It is true. I think I can name a half a dozen people that I think could compound $1 million, or at least they could earn 50% a year on $1 million, have that as an expectation, if they needed it. I mean, they'd have to get their full attention to be working on the sum. And those people could not compound money, 100 million or a billion, at anything remotely like that rate. I mean, there are little tiny areas which, if you follow what I said on the screen there on that Adam Smith's interview a few years ago, if you start with A and you go through and you look at everything and you find small securities in your area of competence that you can understand the business, I think you can, and occasionally find little arbitrage situations or little wrinkles here and there in the market. I think working with a very small sum, that there is an opportunity to earn very high returns, but that advantage disappears very rapidly as the money compounds. Because from $1 million to $10 million, I would say it would fall off dramatically in terms of because there are little, you find very, very small things that you can make, and you're almost certain to make high returns on, but you don't find very big things in that category today. I'll leave to you the fun of finding them yourselves. I mean, it'd be terrible to spoil the treasure hunt. And the truth is, I don't look for them anymore. Every now and then I'll stumble into something just by accident, but I'm not in the business of looking for that. I'm looking for things that Berkshire can put its money in, and that rules out all of that sort of thing. Charlie?
Well, I would agree, but I would also say that what we did 40 or so years ago was in some respects more simple than what you're going to have to do.
Right.
We had it very easy compared to you. It can still be done, but it's harder now. You have to know more. I mean, just sifting through the manuals until you find something that's selling at 2 times earnings, that won't work for you.
It'll work, it's just you won't find any.
在这个片段中，巴菲特给出了非常相似的建议，就是如果你只有很少的资金，那你可以开始研究行业中所有你了解的小公司，然后试着找出那些具有吸引力价格的股票。查理提出了一个残酷的事实，就是对比50年前，今天你已经很难找到股价被低估的公司。那是因为现在有很多投资者都在寻找这样的公司，他们还利用许多的超级电脑来试图帮他们找到任何市场上的漏洞来获利。这意味着我们必须用越来越长的时间来寻找可以投资的机会。我想提的最后一点是，巴菲特说投资者完全有可能以少量的资金来投资，并且获得 50% 的回报。但我想提醒你的是，这个是非常难做到的，想要年复一年获得这样的回报更难。所以你要谨记这一点，不要让那些对你承诺会给你超高回酬的骗子骗了你的钱。如果喜欢这支影片，请记得按赞、分享以及点击小铃铛。
谢谢你的支持。